Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be here, and thank you very much to everybody for inviting me to be part of this conference. I was asked to talk about the creative learning agenda in the international context, and then obviously relate that to the core theme of the conference, which is technology. So I thought I'd talk a bit about how the world is changing, picking up some of the themes that the speakers before me have spoken about. We run programs in schools all over the world, which are designed to develop the creativity of young people in formal education. I was visiting one of our schools a few years ago, and at the end of the visit, somebody said, there's this 16-year-old boy here who's making a short film about your program, and he'd like to interview you. So I said, fine, and I went to the head teacher's office, and he was there, and he had a video camera, and he asked me some questions, and I gave some answers. And I left. And I thought no more about it. But about 4 weeks later, I got a DVD in the post, and this was what was on it.
My name is Paull Collard. I'm National Director of Creative Partnerships. At its heart, Creative Partnerships is about making education a better experience for young people and making sure that they leave school with a set of skills that are going to set them up properly to be a success in the 21st century. Ultimately, if Creative Partnerships is going to have a long-term impact, then it is going to be an impact on teachers, because we can't forever be in schools doing that. What we have to do is to be able to work with teachers and bring around changes in what they do. If you get the right creative process going, and you step on the outside and you're watching people, then people are at their most alive when they're doing that. They're completely focused, engaged in this different place. And it's that look of absolute rapt fascination that you get across people's faces that makes it all worthwhile. And you think, that's absolutely living, actually.
I can't see any resemblance with me at all. But the important thing about that video was that a few weeks later, I was in a meeting with the directors of big advertising agencies in London, because we were talking about the route to jobs in advertising. And this is because advertising pays really well, it's lots of fun, and everybody wants to work in advertising, and we wanted to look at how we could make pathways into those jobs more fair, because currently in England, a lot of those jobs are taken by people from higher social economic positions in society. And towards the end, I said, can I show you a video? And the directors said, yes, that's fine. And I showed them that video. And they all wanted the boy's telephone number because they wanted to ring him up and offer him a job immediately. Because the skill that he has is very complicated. Because not only has he got great technical skills in using the cameras and making that animation and so forth, is that he has an extraordinary artistic skill, which is to create a character out of all of that. And that's really hard to do. And they could see that and say, we want that, because by the end of the week, we can have him sitting in front of our clients, selling them great ideas for what they're going to do. And what was interesting to me is that before they saw the video, those employers did not know that was what they were looking for. There was never going to be an advert saying, can you do very clever things with cameras and lights and animation and character building and so forth? But when they see it, they want it. And this is really important about the world in which the young people you're all teaching are going to move into, is that people have a completely different expectation of what's going to happen. There's a statistic that I see quite a lot that says 60% of the jobs young people in school today will do have not yet been invented. And this creates a big problem for education because the way education has been organized over the years is that you go to school and university to learn the skills you need in order to do the jobs that you will do. But if we don't know the jobs that they're going to do, how can we teach them the skills that they are going to need? Because what the world is looking for now is not job seekers, but job creators. Young people coming out of school or university are going to have to invent the jobs that they're going to do. And the question is, what are the skills that they need in order to be able to do that? McKinsey's, which is a big international consultancy, recently did a survey across the whole of Europe, which was about youth unemployment, because in lots of places it's a problem. And in their survey, and they surveyed thousands of businesses across Europe, a third of businesses said they had serious problems because they could not find the skills they needed in young people. And a quarter of businesses said they had empty jobs, which they couldn't fill because they weren't the right skills. So what you have in Europe is millions of young people without jobs, and you have millions of empty jobs. So there is a huge structural problem. And when they were asked what skills they couldn't find, this is what they were talking about. In this, I know it's hard to read up there, but primary, secondary, and tertiary here refer to sectors of the economy. Primary is agriculture and mining, secondary is manufacturing, tertiary are the service industries. And the big growth in European employment is in the service industries. That's where all the jobs are being created, because nowadays other countries do all the mining. Nowadays China, India, and so forth is doing all the manufacturing. We have to be able to do the service things. And what you can see is that when the employers were asked what's the problem, some of them worry about language, some of them worry about skills, but the big gap in skills is in problem solving, work ethic, communication, teamwork, and creativity. Now, our foundation has done a lot of work researching what we mean by creativity. It's a very complex thing, but we've done lots of literature reviews, and we've produced a definition of creativity, which we call the creative habits of mind. We say they are 5 habits of mind: being inquisitive or curious, being persistent, being imaginative or disciplined. And when people see this for the first time, they go, I thought creativity was about imagination, but why is it about persistence? And we say, because if you are the kind of person who has lots of good ideas, but gives up very easily, and none of your ideas ever happen, that's not being creative. Being creative is being able to have a good idea and make it happen. The same with discipline, which in this sense we also mean learning the subject within which you will be creative. If you want to be a creative architect, you have to learn to be an architect so your buildings don't fall down. Then you can be creative. Nobody wants creative architects whose buildings don't know how buildings stand up. So you have to understand the techniques of the area that you're working in. So this is what we mean by creativity, but when you go back to what business says, persistence and discipline is work ethic, collaboration is teamwork, problem solving and analysis is curiosity and imagination. So what the businesses around Europe are saying is these are the skills we are finding difficult to do, and this is really important to us. It's so important that the OECD, who runs PISA, which is this big test that Poland did well in the last round, the test currently is in mathematics, science, and literacy, but from 2021, they're also going to test for creativity, because creativity is the thing we really need from everybody if we are going to move on. And this applies to me as much to our approach to technology. So we work in schools all over the world, And we use quite a lot of technology in this. This short film I'm going to show you here is with a group of 8 or 9-year-olds that we worked with in Karachi. What we were working on was literacy, but what we wanted to focus on was story making, how you make stories, and also helping them construct stories that they are interested in. And to do this, we worked with animation and claymation, and this is a short film they made about Karachi. So the point of that is that if you open up the space of storytelling to children and you allow them the freedom to explore the issues they want to deal with, then they always move in on the basic things that are really worrying them. And Karachi is a very violent town, and it's very dangerous. But what you see in the story is them establishing a strong moral and ethical position. So the story sees lovely Karachi. Here are people trying to destroy the city. They all get killed as the structure of the story, because the children want to believe that there is a moral and ethical, we live in a moral and ethical universe, and that therefore that's the natural conclusion. So the teachers absolutely gave them free rein. They were not giving those messages. And I think that the value of giving them technology is it's giving them a space in which they are willing to explore, they are able to explore these really fundamental issues that are concerning them. And it's that giving of the voice, in a way, which is so important. There are other ways in which technology can help. And this is an example from a program that we're working in Wales. This is a school for children with special needs, and the children in this school have very serious needs. And the boy you're going to see cannot speak. can hardly move at all except a few simple movements of his head and his hands. And he's been working with an artist who's created a learning environment for him which picks up the smallest movements and putting it through a computer produces music. And so this boy is able, through the limited number of movements he can make, to start to compose. And this is what it looks like. So every sound is the result of a movement that he has made, which results in giving him the opportunity to start to compose. But what's important is his voice starts to come through. For the first time in his life, that boy is able to control his environment in some way and to express himself. And the teachers working with the children in this way say once they realize for the first time that they are able to express themselves, they do it until they collapse with exhaustion because it's so liberating for them. Now, that's an extreme example, but actually that's what technology is able to do. It's able to liberate the voice, but you have to develop the voice for most young people. It's not naturally, it is there, but you as teachers have to focus on developing voice. Then, when you bring technology to that, they can do something very powerful with it. And the last example I'm going to give you is from a project we were doing in a school in Norway. This was actually a residential center for young teenagers with serious psychological problems, so serious that they were taken away from family and school to be in a residential center for a few months to try and address these issues. And we did a project with some of these young people, a filmmaking project, and at the end, one of the girls, a 14-year-old girl, came to us and said, "Could I borrow the equipment because I'd like to make a short film?" This girl had what's called social anxiety disorder. She was so terrified of people that she couldn't leave her room, which is how she ended up in this center. And this is what she was trying to deal with. And this is the film she made, which explains it.
In the world today, about 7% of the population suffers from social anxiety. That's millions. So how can it be that I'm completely alone? On the list with the most common fears in the world, the fear of death came in second. What conquered the top of the list was public speaking. In conclusion, according to these statistics, attending a funeral, you'd be better off laying in the coffin than keeping the speech. That is, indeed, a dreadful conclusion. That some would rather die and feeling exposed and judged by other people. People whom we share this very planet with. People who walk amongst us. Wonderful, interesting, intelligent people, reduced to a pair of judgmental eyes, staring mockingly at the back of your neck. They assume you're just a bit shy, known as the one who never raises their voice, that it'll pass. But what they didn't notice was the trembling of your hands, The way a head spun in utter chaos, how the bitter taste of panic was welling up in your throat. They don't understand. No one does. The outside world is such a scary place. Not the cars, and the raging wars, and muggers and tornadoes and firearms. It's the crowds. It's the sweaty handshakes, and the insecurity of looking someone in the eye and telling them your name. And so is the conclusion that some would rather get hit by a car than shaking hands with a stranger. As humans, we all crave for attention. To be heard, seen, cared for, accepted. The anxiety does not take that away. If anything, it only serves to increase it. But it will also fill you with fear. Fear of being heard, of being seen, of being cared for. Fear of not being accepted. Attention becomes overwhelming and terrifying, so you run away from it. You cover your face, you close your mouth, and you hide. There is nothing you want more, yet there is nothing you fear more than attention. Why can't I just be like everyone else? You feel excluded, different. It is the most common anxiety disorder in the world, the third most common mental disorder. Yet it seems never to be spoken of, never to be explained nor understood. What it means to be terrified by the world around you, and not getting the slightest recognition, or walking out the door and facing it every single day.
So the point of that film is that it's an extraordinarily well-constructed piece of art, in my view. Every frame is perfectly created. The editing of the frames to the sound is absolutely extraordinary. The words are so precisely put together. But what makes it work is having something important to say. That's what drives the whole thing. And she had discovered something important to say, and then she used the technology in order to be able to do it. So it has to be about developing voice first. And that, to me, is what creativity is. It's about developing voice. And what I think is that without creativity, technology is pointless. Thank you very much indeed.